Welcome to episode 54 of the Propaganda Report. This is Monica Perez here with Brad Binkley. Binkley, how you doing?
My head's spinning.
Why? Oh,
Trump Jr. met with a Russian lawyer. Treason. Dude,
I walked in. I really got to the end of my rope. I walked into my office, and in the hallway was a big TV, CNN, and I actually was on the phone with my mom, so I was kind of like loitering for a while, back and forth, whatever. So this was going on for like a half an hour. Every time I looked up, it was Wolf Blitzer with his like totally we're invading Kuwait look on his face. Talking, I don't even know what they were saying, but they had the little banner underneath about Trump Jr.'s email, the Russian lawyer. And I just like started saying it like some security guy standing around. I was just like, dude, this is so ridiculous. And I was just beyond. I'm at the end of my rope. And I know in my circles, because I have a child with Down syndrome, I never say retarded, but this is retarded. I'm sorry. I just can't. It's so stupid. And I'm saying to this security guy, it's like, you don't understand. There are real issues in the world. There are real things going on. This is just wrong. This is what I said to this guy. I'm sorry. I mean, I don't even know his name. I started saying, my father fought in World War II, and if he knew that it would turn out to be a TV show, a reality show, a play, theater, I'm sure he's rolling over in his grave right now. I was like, I can't take it anymore. This used to be a real country.
Anyway, probably had quite an effect on that guy.
I don't know what I stopped asking people what country they're from. I used to always be like, so what country are you from? And then her name was Perez. I was like, what country are you from? This is my country. I was like, oh, whatever. So I can't ask people anymore, but I was going to say, like, is this what you expected when you came over? Granted, it's clean here.
Maybe this is why they came here.
I don't know, but it really reminds me of that stuff. Like when I had a babysitter from Brazil, and she's like, yeah, this senator guy, whatever, he's an actual clown. Shows me a picture of him like in makeup. And then they're like fighting in the legislature. And then I've shown you, we've talked about like the Ukraine legislature actually fighting. And I used to think it was because they took it so seriously. And now I realize that it's just that the people are so stupid that they believe it. And then today, Corey emailed me, one of my little Truth Star boy emailed me this article from Politico about this party at the Hamptons with Ivanka Trump, Jared Kushner, Chuck Schumer. It was like, well, everybody that you think are out there like fighting each other. And they're totally not.
It gets to the point when everyone's a clown. Who's performing in the circus?
Well, I think first we have to acknowledge that this is a circus. That's the thing. It's just, I can't take it anymore. I'm an anarchist. I don't care about policy, but if the news doesn't start talking about real stuff, I'm going to jump off the roof.
They're not. They have a schedule of all right, it's going to be Jared Kushner is going to have a back channel. It's going to be Paul Manafort. He is filing as a foreign agent, although we're not going to mention that Podesta is also. And then it's going to be Melania, and then it's going to be Donald Trump Jr., and then it's going to eventually be Barron playing with a Russian diplomat's daughter in a discreet part of the playground or something.
I actually think it's so scripted. Melania sent out a tweet from their European trip, and it had a grammatical error that only a foreigner would make, in my opinion.
Everybody laughed at her, probably.
I think
multiple languages too.
They do it on purpose. Like I think she has a tweet writer just like
right
Trump does.
Yeah.
I feel like it's so crafted that you just can't believe anything.
It's so crafted. You're absolutely right. There's no doubt in my mind how crafted this stuff is.
Because think of what's at stake here. Everything. Trillions of dollars. You know what I mean? Don't we have like $20 trillion of debt right now? It's trillions of dollars of wealth in the world that's controlled by a very small group of people. You think they're letting Melania tweet? What if she tweeted one day, this is all fake? They can't let her tweet her own tweets.
They would it would be interpreted. They would be like, "Oh, her boobs are fake," and that'd be like the breaking story.
Oh, like the thing
She got her boobs from Russia.
What we were talking about on the WSB show, the last episode, about Ukraine, and they had Victoria Nuland, the Assistant Secretary of State, saying all this stuff about how they're overthrowing the government of Ukraine, and that was like a leaked call. And all the news talked about when that came out was that she said the F word. I'm serious. I remember the story. People are like, oh, I remember that. She said F the EU. It's like, no, she said, let's overthrow the democratically elected president of Ukraine. And then she said F the EU.
It's amazing how they can shift our focus to one aspect of the story and make that the important thing and have everything else just kind of fade away.
That's got to be part of, or I wouldn't be surprised if that is part of this whole vulgarization thing that I noticed.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's a propaganda tactic that it's just you because they have the power of the communication channels. You repeat it over and over again, and you emphasize, the emotional aspect of it. Like, you're shocked she said the F word, but it's like, she said the F word. Oh, and she said she was going to replace the Ukraine president. But back to the F word.
Yes. It's so funny. It's not funny. It's horrible. Please, I start to not care. Like, my mom will be like, hey, why do you care so much? God is up in his heaven, well, everything. We were born to die. Just, I don't know what you care for. You're like, well, I care because we're not born just to die. Like, we're supposed to do stuff in the meanwhile, and I think we're supposed to fight this fight. But then I think, forget it. I just want to learn how to cook and just do that or whatever, perfect my craft cocktails.
Maybe.
I can't though, because they kill people. They kill hundreds of thousands of people with my money.
Yeah.
In my name. They go over to Syria and they bomb people like, this is for Monica Perez in Atlanta, her tax dollars, and so her little kids can go to school. Oh, we're defending her freedom.
It's like the Coke bottles with random names on them. They put everybody's name on a bomb,
and they give it to the people in Syria. And just say, "This is for Christina and you, of course, and you beautiful little babies." Yemeni babies are not beautiful, by the way. Did you know that?
No, they are the ugliest babies. Not worth defending with.
Get cholera. Sorry, I don't mean to laugh. I have gotten. There is one listener who doesn't think it's okay to laugh, and I understand that. It's very upsetting. If you don't laugh, you're going to cry. I can't.
Well, there's a time to laugh and there's a time to cry. Isn't that how the song goes?
Yes, but the laughing, laughter. My uncle the priest said this. This is why he said Catholics have the best sense of humor, because they have the most objective rules. Like, this is so black and white. That humor is just a deviation from what you know to be right and true. So that's why you have to have kind of the same basis of the same standards, the same perspective. Like, cross-cultural humor is difficult. So it's just, you can laugh at what they're doing if we're comparing it to actual morality, to actually the right and wrong of it. It's so wrong what they're doing, and it's based on such lies that it's laughable. Now, if you think about what they're actually doing, that I have wept for those people.
Yeah, I agree. I think that you have to think about the stuff that's ridiculous from time to time, just so, if we worry all the time about all of the horrible things, then that's what we would spend all of our time doing.
But it's not even, it's not, sometimes if you're with like-minded people, it's not even worth arguing about. I have a funny story. It's not worth arguing. You just laugh at it because you both know how ridiculous it is. I was listening to a podcast the other day, great podcast, and I actually forget the guy's name. But one of them, I don't want to misrepresent it, so I don't want to say their names in case I don't get it quite right. There's two guys, smart guys, really down the rabbit hole, but their stuff checks out. I mean, they are deeper than I am. And
wow,
they were talking about how, there's way deeper than I am out there. It's just and these guys that. So they're talking about like how hard it is, how like they're no longer fit for polite society. They can't like go to a Christmas party and have any kind of, conversation.
Exactly. Yeah.
So they both had the same experience where they were like on a camping trip or whatever with other people, and people looking up at the sky, all the stars, looking up at the moon. Somebody starts talking about the moon landing. Both of them were just like, yeah. Just separately, they were both like, yeah, I had the same experience. You just like, not tonight.
It's how you learn to discipline yourself.
Keep your mouth shut. Yeah, but it was just funny because anybody listening to that, like if my mom were listening to that show, she was just like, what are they talking about? And I'd be like, yeah, they don't even have to say how stupid are those pictures or whatever.
Yeah.
There were no stars. The astronauts couldn't see any stars. I don't know. But it was just funny because they're so far down the rabbit hole, and everybody who listens to them is so far down the rabbit hole that they don't even have to explain it. They could just laugh at the idiot who said, how about that moon landing? I know it sounds crazy. I don't when guys like that are laughing about it, and also, you dig into it, that's a tough one for me to, I don't know. I don't buy it, but whatever. Help me out here, Binkley, because I don't know how crazy it sounds to not believe in the moon landing.
I think we've been to space. I think we've probably been to space sooner than we landed on the moon personally, but I this is not a scientific investigation that I've done on this, but this is just my opinion. The actual video of the moon landing, that's not a live video of somebody stepping on the moon.
But I think it was supposed to be live streamed from the moon, and I think they were actually talking to each other with no time lag.
I can't get cell service in my basement. They can
well,
talk
you can't
to
get
live
cell
stream.
service off the 9/11 planes either, but those people were calling their families.
Yeah, so either one of two things is true. They filmed it, or they filmed it in the studio, or maybe they filmed it up there. Right. They filmed it up there, and then they sent it back later. I mean, how quickly did they transfer that file that far? I mean, it takes me an hour to upload something on freaking
They lost all the pictures.
Like, where is this technology? Is what I like. If they're hiding,
this is what I think. Yeah. So I look at, first of all, the Van Allen radiation belts are serious business. I don't know how they got through that. Supposedly, human beings still can't go through them. But I just have a hard time getting my mind around, like, you get these big rockets, they blow them up off the earth, they blow up half the time, you shoot it up there, it gets to the moon, bunch of guys get out onto the moon, then get back into the rocket and come back home. No big deal. Like, I can't visualize. I need to see that part.
You need to see him get out and get back in?
I kind of just need to see the whole entire thing. And like the moon buggy, I think it's like 250 degrees on the light side of the moon, and it didn't have a radiator. Just little things like that maybe I need to be an astrophysicist to really understand it, but there were no stars.
Well, maybe stars.
I guess you can't see the stars if there's like a lot of bright light lighting up the foreground. You wouldn't see the stars in the background. I don't know. Dude, I hate getting off on the stuff that really sounds crazy.
Well, let's go back to stuff that doesn't sound crazy. I don't think there are
alien structures on the moon. I do not think there are alien structures on the moon.
You don't think there's aliens?
I do not. That I absolutely have no reason to.
Because you can take a picture from any angle and make something look like a structure?
No, I have not been convinced at all by actual intelligent aliens interacting with human beings. I am not convinced by that. Although I would be happy to. You're
not convinced that it's happening? Is that what you're saying?
I'm not convinced that it's happening. Although I'm happy to have somebody explain. I know we've had an invitation to go check out some evidence of such. I would be interested in that, but yes. I'm not convinced at this juncture of that. So there is a rabbit hole.
There is, personally. Do what?
You do or do not?
No, I do. I absolutely do.
Really? You think that there are intelligent aliens interacting with human beings?
Yeah, the human beings themselves might not even know it at times. I think that if there might be an alien sitting right in front of me or you right now, and we'd have absolutely no idea.
Are you an alien, Binkley? Is this your way of telling me?
I don't know. my thinking behind this, it's not based on scientific, I don't understand the cosmos scientifically, but I look at an ant, I look at a dog, I look at all these other species on Earth, and ants aren't walking around thinking that there's all these other more intelligent beings above us. To them, we're an earthquake. We're a monster.
But they don't have a concept. They're not capable of abstract
that's
thought.
what we say, though. But like, they've done studies on stuff like roaches have personalities, and they like all kinds. We're learning more and more about these. I know it's crazy, right? More and more about these other species on Earth. That's kind of changing our perception of some of these things. But there are animals that they say that they believe have a level of consciousness, of self-awareness, similar
like
to
whales,
us.
dolphins.
Right. And whales and dolphins aren't going, man, I really wish we were the most intelligent thing in the world. They think that they are.
Saying,
right?
I wish we had thumbs.
Yeah, exactly.
That's all. That's the only thing that's keeping them from getting us back.
I just think I think it's naive to think that we would be aware of a being that had more intelligence or a higher level of consciousness.
Yes, I'm not. I will stipulate that. All I will say is I'm not convinced there are intelligent aliens interacting with human beings, nor am I convinced that the Apollo moon landing that we were shown was live streamed from the moon that day. As
you have a question mark next to those two.
I'm just not convinced. And if there's a way to convince me. But it always comes down to that particular one, or a lot of things, but that one in particular always comes down to believing. It's just faith. And people will say to me, you can't believe they could get away with a hoax like that. Or you don't believe the media, you don't believe the government, you don't believe it. I'm like, I don't believe it. So tell me how you know it's true. You know it's true because you believe it,
Right, yeah.
My daughter doesn't believe it. She just doesn't believe it. But I think maybe because one of her teachers came back from Ukraine and Russians do not believe it.
They don't believe in the moon landing?
Right. Like the default position there is...
They're meddling with our moon landing story?
They never believed it because they were ahead of us in the space race and they knew it wasn't possible. So they immediately knew it was a hoax. So my daughter does not believe in the moon landing, but she really cannot deal with my doubts about the official narrative of 9/11. She just is like, Mom,
really?
I was watching a video. She came upstairs to tell me, I was watching a video and it said, you might as well be one of those crackpots who thinks 9/11 was an inside job. And I said, Caroline, they're trying to get into your mind. She said, I knew you were going to say that. That they just plant that to make me doubt. And I was like, look, I don't care if you believe it or not, but don't not believe me and believe them. Don't believe any of it until you have evidence. You don't even have to have an opinion on it, but you do have to get evidence before you authorize someone to use your money and your name to kill people. That you definitely, and if they can't prove it to you, then you have a moral obligation to withhold your consent.
Yeah, when she goes to bed at night, you should just open the door and say, good night, my little sheeple.
She's struggling. I feel bad for her. They really don't want. But I told you what my son said, who's a year younger than her, that he came home and said, Mom, you're right about 9/11. I said, what? And he said, I said, how do you know? He said, well, they showed us the pictures at school. I said, what pictures? He said, well, of the buildings exploding. I said, they didn't melt, they exploded. I was like, yeah, well.
It's crazy.
On its face, he just looked at it. It was like, oh, yeah.
And that's the key right there, what you just said, on its face. No,
yes.
We never see information or images or videos. We never get it simply on its face. We always get primed as to what it is we're looking at. And we get an interpretation put in our minds prior to us seeing what's actually going on. So that's what we see. We see what we're primed to see, and the other stuff kind of fades away after that's reinforced over and over again.
Well, my brother, it can even come later. My brother was a construction worker, and he and my dad worked on the World Financial Center's like around that. My dad worked on the World Trade Center itself. And he said his wife or ex-wife, whatever, was on a bridge in New York, like the Tappan Zee Bridge or something, and watching this unfold happening and on the phone with him. And then I guess he started watching it on TV, and he said he was looking at it and he sees the building collapse, and he knows enough about construction. He was like, there's absolutely no way an airplane, could do that. Like, he was looking at it, he's like, this has got to be, a 1 in a million. I mean, what kind of, coincidence of events would have to happen for that to like hit in just the right way? I mean, how could it even happen? Whatever. Then he sees the other one fall, and he was like, it's impossible. This is impossible. What I'm saying is impossible. He never said anything to anybody. He believes the story, the official narrative.
Really?
And then yes. And I like years later, he said to me, Mommy's worried about you. My mother was worried about me. And I was like, what? It's like, he said, I walked into the living room. My mother's got the newspaper in front of her. This is so typical my mom, her like little feet up on the ottoman or huge newspaper in front of her face. He says she folds over one side of the newspaper, looks over, and says to George, my brother, he says to him, did you talk to Monica lately? And he says, no. Why? He says, oh, she has some ideas. She thinks everything's fake. I was like, I don't think it's fake. So he had the heads up that I was starting to question, this is a long time ago, I guess. So I asked him what he thought. I was like, I just want to ask you, like, if you think it's possible. And then he explained to me what he had thought at the time. And then he just said he never thought about it again. He just never thought it. He knew it was impossible. That registered while he was watching it. And then later he was just like, yeah, I guess.
Yeah.
Still to this day, I'm sure. And then if I press him on it, he'll be like, why are you bothering me with this stuff? You think I want this in my head? Don't bother me. Let's never talk about it again.
Well, that aspect of it, like the way the building came down.
Yeah.
That's not even the main, that issue actually it causes people to not focus on the fact that whether the building collapsed, it doesn't even matter if the building collapsed because it was exploded or a plane ran into it. Either way, it was still an inside job. An inside job being defined as parts of the government allowing or working with foreign entities to make or let this happen. So it's
yes. I absolutely think that the nuances of what happened, that's why I don't even know or care or anything. I just do not believe the official narrative. And even if I did, Iraq didn't do it. So invading Iraq was not the appropriate response, unless the answer is we need to control the world in order to make sure this never happens again. But that doesn't seem to be working out.
Right. It's like,
dude, seriously, did we just go from the moon landing to 9/11? And I was like, let's not.
Now we need to get back to the normal stuff. The non.
Oh no, because the normal stuff is
that's Donald Trump Jr. meeting with.
No, the stuff I want to talk about is a mind control event that happened in Atlanta.
What mind control event? Well, are you talking about the stuff last week?
Yeah,
let's hit this Donald Trump Jr. stuff real quick because I have a couple clips I want to play before we go into the Loganville shooting and the hostage situation. Is that what you're referring to?
Yes, that is what I'm.
Okay, cool. I just want to play a couple of clips that I cut real quick just to illustrate how insanely stupid the Donald Trump Jr. met with a lawyer.
Yes, I don't really know about this story because it's so stupid.
But here, I'll tell you.
Listen to it. So give me a recap, 2 sentences.
A story came out. Donald Trump Jr., Kushner, and Manafort met with a Russian lawyer who has some ties to the Russian government, and they met for like 20 minutes. And now this is Russian collusion. What Donald Trump Jr. says, he released the email exchanges. This was opposition research. This is not near as extreme as the Democrats and the Republicans paying Christopher Steele to go make a dossier that says that Trump got peed on by a bunch of Russian hookers or whatever. So that this is
and he's a germaphobe.
So, right. This is called into question.
Not plausible.
This is called into question. What exactly is collusion, and is it a crime? First of all, no crime was committed. But here's the stupidest thing of the whole story, that they just completely, they don't talk about it on any of the networks really. But the woman, or the claim, and it says this in the email that was released. It says, here, I'm going to read it for you. Okay. They're offering to provide the Trump campaign with some official documents and information that would incriminate Hillary and her dealings with Russia. So the meeting with the Russian lawyer was because they were expecting to possibly get information proving Hillary's collusion with Russia.
Oh, that's so savory. That's so delightful. Oh, no, but the twisted nature of that is just, it's sending a chill up my leg.
Right, and nothing came of the meeting. Like,
so twisted.
So twisted. And the reporting of it is proof of Trump collusion. It's just crazy how backwards it is.
But that's why it's so twisted, so that we can have this conversation
right,
about how twisted it is. Totally has to be the puzzle part of it, the magic, like the sleight of hand, has to be something like the building's blown up, whatever. Has to be something you can see, so you
Absolutely.
can to focus on it when the whole thing is so stupid. I'm looking at the TV and Wolf Blitzer's standing there, and I just want to throw a rock through the TV. You know, I just ready to scream.
We've talked about this before.
And then you say that, sorry, but when I say that, people think I'm a Trump supporter.
I know, right. No,
I'm not a Trump supporter. I'm just a human being with a brain.
I mean, you get Trump supporters attack you all the time, so it's just...
No, I'm a nothing supporter, whether I like him or not. It doesn't matter. It's so stupid on its face. So stupid. Anyway,
well, what they do every single time, we've talked about this, is every story there are, for example, Trump will have two surrogates or representatives comment on whatever the story is. One of them will say one thing, the other will say the completely opposite thing, because each side is going to take the information that they want, and they're going to block everything else out, and that's going to be their talking point, and nothing else will matter. And that's the same thing with this letter here, is the fact that they met with a Russian lawyer is what people on the left are going to focus on and hang on to, and the fact that the content of the meeting was to show Hillary's collusion is what people on the right are going to focus on, and nothing else is going to matter. They're just going to fight and butt heads, and those are the talking points that will permeate throughout the country as people are talking about this on social media and Twitter. Nobody's having any reasonable, logical conversations. They're just screaming these handles, these hooks, because
there is a little bit of that, though. The contradiction is part of the fun, and I want to give you an example.
All right.
Yesterday, so I read the newspaper, so I don't always know what Fox News is saying, because it's just not efficient enough. So I have to just read the newspaper. So I don't always know where the energy is coming from. So a few days ago, we were doing the Ukraine thing, and I was looking at Tillerson, the difference between what Sergei Lavrov said about the Putin-Trump meeting and what Tillerson said about the Putin-Trump meeting. And I remember thinking, wow, I totally believe Lavrov. That's how far we have fallen, that I believe the agent of a foreign government, Russia no less, over our own Secretary of State, but I do. And Lavrov said, Putin told Trump he had nothing to do with the election hacking, and Trump accepted that. Tillerson said they had a robust exchange. Trump repeatedly pressed him. He brought up the sanctions and all this blah, blah, blah. So then yesterday, this was last week, whatever. And then I'm reading the newspaper yesterday, and Trump has this tweet or something comment that said, we didn't talk about sanctions and blah, blah, blah. And I thought, that's messed up because Tillerson said they did. Whatever. I don't care. So I'm driving along. I don't know what channel it's on, listening to the satellite radio in my car. And Anderson Cooper said, Trump directly contradicted Tillerson about the sanctions and the thing. And I was like, are you kidding me? That was a planted element or whatever. That was an element that like that was a feature of the news, was this contradiction, which was fairly meaningless. But the fact that it was flagged to me, it was like a dog whistle or whatever, it was like something was in there. I don't know, part of the
It's an intentional strategy. Absolutely. You give each side something to hang on to.
No, but it's not just that. It's not that there's it's not only that there is an inherent contradiction. It's the contradiction itself. You know what I mean? It's just form over substance to the extreme. They don't care about whether the sanctions are talked about or not.
No, of course not.
They care that Tillerson and Trump, like this idea, like you said, he has two people and they come out with different things. That is absolutely defining Trump's, I don't know what.
Oh, you brought up the sanctions. The woman the lawyer, she came out and she did like an interview with like NBC. It's like a 1-minute clip. But she said that she wasn't there to say any of the things that Donald Trump Jr. said. This is before he released the email exchange. So she was saying this before that. But she said, I was there to talk about sanctions. Yeah,
she just set him up. I mean, that's nasty. Is she related to Ossoff?
She might be John Ossoff's sister. I don't know.
No, I mean the dad. Doesn't the dad have a big Russian law firm?
The dad works with the attorney that was the 2016 Russian law firm of the year. That is also Donald Trump's tax attorney. And
does she have any association with that?
He does not. I thought that might be the case at first too, but this is a different. This is like that. That's a global law firm. I think this is a Russia specific lawyer.
So what?
And she's low level. She's not like a big.
Why can't we talk to Russians? It's not like they're.
I know it's insane. And
that's why the Ukraine Crimea stuff that we talked about, which I guess will be episode 53, is important, because it's all like, well, you see, he's this expansionist annexer of Crimea, and he totally wasn't. We did that. We started all of this. Absolutely. They just want to, get ahead like everybody else, but they're a fraction of our power.
Right. And you mentioned the sanction stuff. We know that the substance doesn't matter, because if the substance mattered, they would talk about the fact that the Podesta brother firm has been helping the Russians get Obama-era sanctions removed throughout the 2016 election. They got paid like $150,000 to help Russia's largest state-owned bank get some of those sanctions taken away, to lobby for them. So we know the substance doesn't matter because they never mention that.
But those little sanctions that Obama shoehorned in at the end were so minor. I forget what they were, but I just remember thinking, what?
I don't even think it was burger. It was like previous ones.
Yeah, previous ones were significant, but the little ones that I think we're talking about here, and I must say, when Obama did that whole story seemed so fake, so contrived to me. When he, on the way out the door, did these silly little slap on the wrist sanctions against few individuals. And look what happened to it. That was the launching point for the Michael Flynn thing. Like, this whole thing it was telegraphed that these weird events just, they came out of nowhere, and they're feeding this machine of nothingness just to try to be the new Watergate. So stupid.
Right. They primed another dramatic circus event coming up soon. I'm sure.
Do tell.
Comey, the letters he released to his friend, apparently, some of them were classified and he could be prosecuted.
And I did hear Kellyanne Conway saying, and he expressed his intent. I mean, his whole hearing was one big setup. Yeah. I did it to influence politics. I did it to... I didn't want to get in trouble. He was so stupid, so not what a cop and prosecutor would ever say or do.
All
Anyway.
right, let me play these Oberman clips.
I'm exasperated. I'm perpetually exasperated right now. This will be
a nice comedic relief hearing some of these.
No, this is going to make me tear my hair out.
All right, because I cut these right before the show. I'm not going to be able to set them up for you, so I'm just going to play them, stop them, and then we'll comment. Here's the first one.
I'm Keith Olbermann, and this is The Resistance. We know Donald Trump Jr. confessed to at least trying to conspire with a Kremlin-linked lawyer 2 weeks into the presidential general election campaign in hopes of getting dirt on Hillary Clinton. But lost in the now standard maelstrom of our lives is the stunning reality that Donald Trump Sr. also all but confessed to trying to conspire with Vladimir Putin to clear the path by which the Russians can come back and attack our midterm elections next year and our presidential election in 2020. Mine are just interpretations, not legal opinions, but I'm right.
He threw that in at the end there. Just trust me. All right, that's the first one. Do you have any comments on that one? That's kind of the primer.
It just sucked the life force out of me.
All right, here's the next one. These are all pretty good.
Putin and I discussed forming an impenetrable cybersecurity unit so that election hacking and many other negative things will be guarded. That is a confession to responding to the worst sneak attack against this country since 9/11 or even Pearl Harbor.
Let me take that back. Listen to how he compares how extreme this confession that he says it is.
But I noticed that little funny wording of Trump. That is so hilarious.
Right. Listen to what he compares that tweet to. He's comparing a tweet to listen to the events.
Hacking and many other negative things will be guarded. That is a confession to responding to the worst sneak attack against this country since 9/11 or even Pearl Harbor by discussing the possibility of sharing our cybersecurity operations, sharing our intelligence, sharing our defenses with our enemy after our enemy interfered with our elections last year in advance of the elections of 2018 and 2020.
9/11, Pearl Harbor. It's going to reach a point where when you compare everything that happens to 9/11 or Pearl Harbor, it's going to lose its effect. Or you got to pick something that's worse. Like that's worse than, when God flooded the earth, whatever.
And you know what's funny is that after reading that Politico article about all the people who were at the Hamptons this weekend, Olbermann just wants to be invited to the party. He just wants to go to Mar-a-Lago with Mika and Melania. That's what this is. This is literally I completely feel like this is a soap opera. And afterwards, they all go back and take off their makeup and go out for a beer.
Olbermann was so much better when he was just doing sports commentary on ESPN.
And then did he lose his career or what? What happened to him?
I don't know. Maybe he banged his head against a baseball bat or something.
But he's just not on mainstream media anymore.
No, he does a GQ. It does a 5-minute GQ video, once a week maybe, where he just uses a bunch of really big, complicated words.
I love that.
And says them really quickly. It's just about another minute or so of clips here.
Okay.
Can't remember what this one is either.
Good job.
Stated that she had information that individuals connected to Russia were funding the Democratic National Committee and supporting Ms. Clinton. Instead of throwing this individual out of the building, or as Nixon Attorney General John Mitchell said about Gordon Liddy during Watergate, out of the window, he and Kushner and Manafort met with her for 20 to 30 minutes.
That's right. So he read the part of it where they were meeting because they said that they had information showing that Hillary conspired, and his response was they didn't throw her immediately out of the building. They should have said la la la
la la, covered their ears and started screaming rather than hear what she had to say.
Right. Yeah, we hear.
That's an interesting message.
We're still hearing reporting about this.
Out the window.
You don't throw Christopher Steele out the window when he says that Trump got hookers to pee on him and the bed the Obama slept on. But if anybody says that Hillary did anything, throw him out the window. Otherwise, you're committing treason.
But that is really interesting because he was saying, don't listen to it.
Exactly.
Throw them out the window. That's a terrible thing to not because it's promoting violence, but it's just terrible to send that message. It's obvious that that's their goal, is to get people to stop thinking.
To condition people who identify with their beliefs to just say, nope, it's wrong to even consider this.
And what's the difference? Someone really needs to explain to me what difference it would make to your average free college, kid. I get that part. They like Bernie, but whether Hillary or Trump drops bombs on Syria, who cares? Why are they so dedicated to overthrowing Trump? Because they took this away from Hillary, who's as much of a Republican as Trump is.
Well, they wanted Hillary to be the first female president to drop bombs on Syria. Last one.
But she got Libya. Let Trump have Syria.
That's true.
While Trump fiddled for Putin's pleasure, news broke that nuclear power.
That's why I like that one. Let's play that one again. That little tongue twister right there.
Because it sounds like diddled.
While Trump fiddled for Putin's pleasure, news broke that our nuclear power and energy-related computer networks were burned, hacked, and all initial evidence shows this was done by Russia. Again. And this darkest, most cynical, most disloyal, most evil action ever committed by any president or significant leader in our nation's history, this atrocity, Trump has somehow managed to escalate even this to something worse. Trump is literally, virtually simultaneously accepting the claim that the Russians did not interfere with the election last year, while saying that President Obama was derelict in his duties for not punishing Russia for what Trump thinks Russia did not do.
Now that you just have to unpack for a second.
I know. I got to say, first of all, I thought that thing, I know he was trying to make a Nero reference, but it just sounded too much like diddled. And then like Putin's pleasure. So that was funny. But that his superlatives about how awful he is. Trump, has Trump killed any Americans? I mean, I don't like him killing anybody, but when you talk about the terrible things,
I think he kills a gay person every morning, doesn't he?
And eats his liver for breakfast with some fava beans.
I would think, the way they report on him.
I just feel like when you're talking about the horrible things that presidents have done, you must start with using American soldiers as cannon fodder.
What do you mean?
I'm saying I know it's super controversial to talk about the Civil War this way, but I think Lincoln sacrificed a lot of American lives, and they could have accomplished the goal better with, without the violence. You know what I'm saying? Like that was a serious crime, that he did. I'm just saying. And then like Wilson, he got us into that war. I believe he violated something in the Constitution about sending like the militia overseas, kill people under false pretenses like that. All the soldiers who died in Vietnam, kind of against the will of the people, the draft, you can't do that. You can't draft people and get them killed for a non-defensive war or anything. So I'm just saying, if you want to, let's hear it again. Let's hear what he said. Let's just finish. Like, what are the greatest atrocities committed by a president? And I would say, you have to start with wars, unnecessary, throwing soldiers unnecessary. So let's hear what he said again about diddling and whatnot.
Well, he says the greatest atrocities committed by a president.
Yeah, let's hear it.
While Trump fiddled for Putin's pleasure, our nuclear power and energy-related computer networks were burned, hacked, and all initial evidence shows this was done by Russia. Again. And this darkest, most cynical, most disloyal, most evil action ever committed by any president or significant leader in our nation's history, this atrocity, Trump has somehow managed to escalate even this to something worse. Trump is literally, virtually simultaneously accepting the claim that the Russians did not interfere with the election last year, while saying that President Obama was derelict in his duties for not punishing Russia for what Trump thinks Russia did not do.
That was kind of funny at the end there.
Yeah.
Because it was so twisted. Okay, jot it down what he said. He said this was, I think what he was saying was the burned and hacked computer stuff was the most evil action, or like not being mad at Russia for that, was the most evil action ever committed by a significant leader in this country. Let's think about that for a second. I am not on the bandwagon of like Nixon was the worst guy ever. He was terrible, absolutely terrible. Closing the gold window and price and wage controls and the carpet bombing of Cambodia, I guess. But he carpet bombed Cambodia. He killed a lot of people for no good
but
reason.
he didn't hack into any computer
door.
servers, though, did he?
I mean, and he's not even the most evil. I mean, FDR and Woodrow Wilson both got us into wars that our people did not want, killed millions of people.
Believe neither one of them hacked into a computer server either, so
I guess that's okay. And did LBJ, was he party to JFK's assassination? There was a chance.
Possibly.
That he knew about that. He certainly was going to, they say, I've read that there was going to be an investigation into an actual murder he ordered, and then JFK was killed or something like that. So that's pretty bad. And what else? What else we got? I'm sure there was a lot of
I think the list
American
could go
Indians slain at the hands of significant leaders in this country. So, anyway.
Keith Olbermann would rather Trump gas babies than.
Well, actually, Trump is complicit in the Yemen thing, where 300,000 people now have cholera. Complicit, I'm sure. I mean, I haven't been following what our involvement is, but what the extent of our actual weaponry and stuff. But what, in your opinion, is what's the Bernays button of what this guy's doing with the extreme? I mean, hyperbole, the hyperbolic hyperbole. It's not the most evil action ever committed by a significant leader in this country.
It's
not
fuel.
even an action. It wasn't even an action.
No, of course it's not.
What action was it? Did he do it?
No.
Or did he just think maybe I'm not going to say anything about it? He didn't even do it.
I mean, we heard it at the very beginning of that clip when he said, this is not based on facts or whatever. This is my opinion, but I am right.
Evidence free, without evidence. They're still saying that about the illegal voters, without evidence. I've met many illegal voters,
Yeah.
It's self-evident.
It's a mountain of assumptions, and it's designed to fuel the resistance fire to keep them moving every month or so.
It's just as simple as that, as just saying to stupid people that you've said people parrot this stuff to you and don't even realize it. So you're saying the point of this is that I sit down at Starbucks, pull up a picture of Trump and say asshole, and then the people next to me will say the most evil action ever committed. You know what I mean? If I just trigger them for better or worse, then they will just parrot this, and that's it. It's as simple as that. That's all that's going on here.
It's like giving a coach like Georgia Tech coach maybe giving a rallying speech to the fans or to the team about how horrible and stupid UGA is. The fans already hate UGA, and all they got to say is this evil monster. Everybody's going to go.
Oh yeah, okay. Yeah, this simply this demonizing thing. This absolute heroes and villains. I think Sibel Edmonds talks about this, or has the hero and villain thing. It's getting so ridiculous. It's even I heard Joe Atwill as the first. It was so true, so obvious, or it seems to me to be so obvious that North Korea is like our puppet. It's just there to be an enemy.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying that. It took me. I just couldn't figure out the North Korea thing. And then it's like, oh, obviously, because they just need this hero villain thing. That's what I'm trying to say. With Hillary and Trump, they were both villains. They're both villains for the other side. It's impossible to make them hero. But Trump is a hero too. And I guess I have a hard time visualizing how Hillary is an actual hero. I guess because she doesn't have a penis. Does that make her a hero?
Has no penis. Wow. We're assuming she has no penis.
Right. So I'm trying to identify this quality that people love about her.
Here's what they love about her. They hate Donald Trump, therefore they love Hillary.
Yes, exactly, because it's just the negative. It's just the flip side, the flip of the coin. So, but when you get to this level of the dialectic is so stupid, it's just colors. It's just red and blue. People who are otherwise totally sound, could argue the Bill of Rights and all that kind of stuff. I am just so flabbergasted at how they are they defend Trump against the biased media. So they're simply just accepting the way they're getting the rest of the Republicans on board is by stuff like what Olbermann's saying. That's a deeper level to this. This will trigger just plain old Republicans who are not really Trump supporters to be like, okay, that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
This guy needs a little, he's getting beaten up. It's not fair. Blah, blah, blah. So there is part of that. I think this is meant
absolutely.
to
They're
trigger.
agitating to where people. The whole thing is, and we've talked about this before, is they need people to participate in the political process at least a little bit. They need people to vote. They need them to protest. And this is how they get them off their butts to go do something about it, to go protest. And you're right about that. Even the people who would just sit around and not want to not like either side, think it's all crazy. If they just keep getting more and more agitated by the ridiculousness, they're going to throw their hands up and go, I got to side with this person.
But this kind of stuff, I don't think Olbermann's reaching like the right too much, but Anderson Cooper reaches it, and they get that does get the right as involved as it's getting the left. But I was just thinking today, they don't have to get everybody. They don't have to get half the people to be on their side. They just have to get half the people to participate, and then from that. They own both sides already, so it doesn't really matter who wins. And then, but by having half the people participate, you have like the buy-in of the community. But in reality, only half the people participate. So only a quarter of the people could possibly be actually supporting. So 75% of the people, by definition, have to not have voted for Trump or Obama or anybody. They get 60 million votes out of a total of 260 million.
Right.
So you can't yet, the entire country buys into this as if it's this organic democratic process.
Right. And that's exactly the point. Justify the flawed system. Is as long as we're participating, even people who don't vote, if they can compel to participate in the women's march movement, the resistance movement, or whatever, then that person has psychologically committed to the fight. They have taken a side and they've joined in. They're participating in the political process this way. So that, in their mind, justifies the system. So they have a stake in it now. So
that's why I have a moral problem with voting. I do it, but I really have a moral, it bothers me.
There's a propaganda, a huge propaganda element there. The whole meme about if you don't vote,
I can't stop.
Have the right to say anything. That's just such propaganda to compel participation.
I even brought my kids with me last time.
Did you make them vote? You should have tried to see if they could vote. Put a little mustache on them.
No, not in Georgia, but in California, they would be able to.
Say, hey, I have these illegal immigrants. I'd like to get a vote.
They'll ask you, are you a Democrat?
Yes. Oh, come on in.
Who are you going to vote for? Okay.
Here's your card. You see there's only Hillary on it.
I told you about that when I voted in Texas. I wanted to vote. I've only ever voted Libertarian in my entire life. But after the hanging Chad and everybody making a big deal about the popular vote, Gore won the popular vote. I remember thinking, the theory, if you knew the popular vote was going to be definitive, then everybody in Texas would vote. But everybody in Texas doesn't vote because they know that Bush is going to win. So I was talking to the lady in the front, and I said, I'm Libertarian. I want to vote Libertarian. But what if I wanted to vote for Bush? Could I vote for Bush and still vote for Libertarian? Not because I liked it, but I just wanted to know if I could as protest, whatever. And she said, sure, honey. Hey, Charlie, make this one count. And I was like, no kidding.
That's hilarious.
Say stuff like that.
Yeah, that's funny. That's why I could never work at one of those places, because I would say stuff like that all the time.
Yes, it was just no. It's just that's the kind of thing James O'Keefe comes out with, which he did for the Project Veritas. He got some senior producer. I'm sure the guy lost his job. It's not going to make any difference at all, but it's about how Zucker is telling them not to cover real news, just cover Russia.
Yeah.
So, and obviously Zucker and Trump are absolutely in bed together. So it's clear that, to me, that this is totally a show and they're playing into it. Trump Jr., all this stuff is getting just kind of doled out little by little just to make it, the whole year long for ratings and whatnot. Anyway, I'm tired of that.
All right, let's move on to I believe we were going to talk about the hostage situation that happened last week, as well as the Loganville murders.
Let's first talk about the Loganville murders. I don't have a lot to say about it, and then I want you to explain to me the hostage thing.
All right.
So the Loganville murders, there was a woman, and it was immediately peddled as she was an illegal immigrant. She, in a mobile home, stabbed to death her husband. Initial reports described him as her husband, and 4 of her 5 children, and the 5th one was stabbed and seriously injured but did not die. Then she came out and was being arraigned, and she was described as laughing. Now, I read an article immediately in the local, I think it was a local paper or online on the local site, that said this is one of the worst such crimes in the country or in recent history, whatever, and it listed all the other similar crimes, but it didn't list a crime in Broken Arrow, Oklahoma, 2 years ago this month, where 2 brothers, teenage brothers, stabbed to death their parents and 3 of their siblings, and 1 of the siblings survived. And when they were arraigned or interviewed or whatever, the brother was laughing. So the parallels, there were parallels there. And that story wasn't brought up in the other similar stories. So I started to think, like, was this thing modeled after that? Like, I don't get it. And so I immediately smelled a rat, of course. And then I watched the crime scene, and it didn't actually look like the Broken Arrow one where they were taking bodies out, where they were there taking a lot of pictures, where they were staging it in the front, where, it just didn't look like that. And the Broken Arrow one, the survivor got out and there was blood everywhere. And I just thought she's killing 5 people and wounding a 6th person in a mobile home, and there's just nothing. So I thought that was weird. But then when I watched the arraignment, and you had already pointed out to me that it looked like she was in a cult, she wasn't like laughing. She had this beatific look of absolute bliss, and not like a drug look. It wasn't, I've seen druggies before. There was a mom who shot her 2 mouthy, quotes, teens, and she was like on drugs, and her entire body was just quaking because she was on such serious drugs after that event. So I don't think it was a drug thing. This chick she was given thumbs up. It looked like there was someone behind the camera. We got to put this in the show notes, obviously. Looked like somebody who was behind the camera, that maybe her handler or something. She looked like a mind control victim, and she kept pointing to her, like holding up with her hands, her prison smock, and putting her thumbs up, like as if there were something planted in her mind. When you are in jail and you have your thing on, you will have, accomplished the goal. And then,
you're talking about the one in Loganville, or the one that had the mouthy teenagers?
I'm talking about the one in Loganville. I was just saying the mouthy teenage one had the drugs. None of that else had to do with her. But so this chick, and this is what she said. Let me get her quote from the lawyer. I would have played a clip, but it was just too...
It's bizarre, yeah. She was behaving as though mission accomplished and patting herself on the back.
And she got down on her knees and was like, thank God, It was so weird. And then I heard a clip of her relative saying, when I saw that video, it was a different person.
Yeah.
And they let this up. But let me read to you the thing that she said. It was too faint because an interpreter was repeating it to the judge. So I can't just play the clip. He said to her, can you afford an attorney? And she said, I don't need an attorney. My attorneys is the people that we're fighting for. That's the hope. It's always the hope, because it's the last thing that dies. You are the hope of the world, each one of you. It doesn't matter what color you are, because God loves us all. So what people is she fighting for? I mean, I showed my husband. He's like, she's clearly crazy. And I'm like, no, I don't think she's crazy. I think she's a mind control victim. You got to watch it. You have to watch it. If you're listening to this, you simply must watch it.
There's other people involved that helped influence this to happen, no doubt in my mind.
Why is there no doubt in your mind?
Because of what you just said, the way she was behaving and how her behavior then, is contradictory to what they claim it was before. One of the things she was doing when went back and watched the video too, is she's tugging on her jumpsuit at the shoulders, like a basketball player does after he drills a three-pointer and he's running down the court in triumph. She was triumphantly pulling on her thing. I said, oh, yeah. And I'm watching it. I read the same stuff that you did. I'm like, this person didn't wake up one day and think that she needed to do this for the people. There's some people that are putting ideas in her head that are mind controlling her that either, I don't know, set the dominoes in motion a while ago, or they just, something more intense. But there's other people I think that are involved here.
Yeah, it definitely, her behavior, you got to look at it. Yes, either she's absolutely crazy in a way that I've never seen before, or she looks like cultish mind control. But the meme on Fox, the cover of, the front page of Fox, and what people were tweeting at me and stuff, was that she's evil, she's laughing, she's an illegal immigrant. It's like, dude, that's just
that theory is so
propaganda. Yeah. Just totally gratuitous propaganda with absolutely no basis in this. Just like the Kate Steinle thing. Oh, that guy's supposed to be on trial on Friday. Juan Francisco Lopez Sanchez. Let's see if that thing gets kicked down again.
One of the things that made me think there had to be other people involved is if she did actually do this, then we saw nothing outside of the trailer. So she would have had to keep it contained inside of it. I believe you said she would have had to taken out the dad first, and they would have all had to have been sleeping, and she would have had to have done it. Well, the kids, they're younger, so she could have convinced them that it was the right thing to do. Whatever. She would have had to have known where to put the knife to kill the husband without waking him up. So somebody would have had to told her how to do that, or she would have had or had to have done it for her. Or perhaps, and this is a little bit of a way out there theory, those cults, they kill themselves thinking they're going to go to the promised land.
Yes.
Get on the spaceship afterwards. I don't know if there's some of that going on here. It's just a really odd story.
Yeah. And she was short and overweight. So she was not, and her husband looked like there's absolutely no way she could overpower him. So the only way it could have gone down is if she stealthily, silently killed every one of them. And it's a mobile home. So the kids are going to be together. They're probably, the 2-year-old is probably in the room with her. Sleeps in the room, I would assume. I don't know. But so she would have to have planted the knife in him so that he did not wake up or make any noise at all.
Right.
So one, you know what I mean? Like no struggle whatsoever. And then go through each of the kids. And if any of the kids saw her doing this, they would have been screaming. And she would really have had a struggle on her hand. She had a scratch on one hand.
Right. If they knew what was going on.
She had blood. It looked like there was blood all at her fingernails, but there was one scratch on her hand. But there was no, it's just, I can't, even the boys, the 2 boys in Broken Arrow, teenage boys. So, they were the power of a teenage boy. They had planned it for 2 years, and they still didn't kill that last person, but they had planned it for 2 years, and there were 2 of them. So I can't see how she could have done it. The detail, like when you look at her, there's something wrong with that. And then I was listening that same podcast where the guys were talking about the moon landing. I wish I could remember this other guy's name, but he was talking about a book called The Mystic Chords of Memory. And he was folding into that this idea that our kind of advertising culture, our television entertainment has always been weaponized, and that we would not, if we did not have mass media, we would not believe a story like that. We would just not believe something that cannot make sense to you. You just wouldn't believe it. Whereas maybe not that story maybe is not a great example. I think it's a fine example, but there are other stories that are absolutely positive, like the Orlando. That guy went in with 2 guns. He did away with an armed guard, and he killed 50 people and injured 100 more, starting when that place closed. It's not believable. That didn't happen. That did not happen. But we're so used to watching movies like your Die Hard trailer, where people looked at your stupid Die Hard trailer, thought it was a real movie.
Right.
And the movie makes it real life. It was a great trailer, by the way. It wasn't stupid.
Thank you.
It was fantastic. And I cannot believe you made a fake Die Hard trailer. So you made a parody of a Die Hard trailer with yourself as a star with real guns and blood and stuff in like a warehouse, and the cops came up. Like, you're like,
well, we were filming part of it, and we were not supposed to be in this building after a certain time, and we had these smoke machines in there, and the guns we were using were like $300 a piece, like legit. One of the producers, the guy is totally into guns. He has all of these like movie guns that he loves using. So these were like real looking guns that sounded real. And I was sitting on the ground. I had on a tank top covered in fake blood, blood on my face, bruise makeup on. I'm sitting there on the ground like I'm tired and waiting for them to set up the shot. And a door like on the far, like to my left, there's a door over there, and the alarm had gone off because the smoke machine set the alarm off.
Oh.
So the cops were – this was in Atlantic Station. The cops were coming around to check on it, I guess, and a cop opened the door, and from his vantage point, because I had come in and out of that door many times, the only thing he could see was me. All the camera and stuff was behind.
Oh my gosh! Did you have a gun with you?
I was holding a gun in my hand, covered in blood. He walked in, and I was like, "Oh no, shit!" And I just put my hands up immediately, like, "It's not real."
Good. Yes, that's the right instinct.
We are filming. You didn't send in a robot to shoot me.
See, that's the thing. When you read these stories, or it's like the guy was just, the Philando Castile. That's a big march this weekend, I think. So the story is, this innocent guy says, "Excuse me, officer, let me just get my gun." It's like, no, that is not what you would say. I don't believe it. I don't know what really happened that day, but it absolutely launched Facebook Live in a way no ad campaign, no straight up ad campaign ever could. So I really don't know what went on there, but your natural instinct is to put the fake gun down.
Yeah, that's definitely your natural instinct.
I mean, that's why I don't let my son with Down syndrome use the fake gun, because he doesn't do that. Like, he gets angry. If he gets scared, he gets angry. And we are worried, that he can get himself into some trouble. Anyway.
Right. Another thing about that, didn't somebody tweet at you that this thing in Loganville never would have happened if we had a border wall or something like that?
Yes. But even the Kate Steinle thing, that guy, the guy who killed Kate Steinle, was stopped at the border every single time he came over, and they put him back in jail. Finally, they said he needs to go to a mental institution. I think he was here because of the long jail sentences, honestly.
Yeah.
And ICE was completely all over it, or whatever, the Department for Deportations. But the San Francisco sheriff asked against the sanctuary city laws. He was not just following the law. This was a weird thing for him to do. The mayor reprimanded him. He asked for the guy to come back to serve a 20-year-old $20 marijuana charge they no longer prosecute. And when he got him back, he let this guy go and did not tell the deportation guys who were waiting to deport the guy.
Right.
So the stuff you hear about that is, and not to mention, the druggies have secured the border. Nobody's getting so.
Absolutely. Well, my point on that with the Loganville lady is the logic in that, just the knee-jerk reaction there. It clearly, that person did not consider what they were saying, because this woman was an illegal immigrant. So was her husband.
Oh, yeah, and all of her kids. So she killed her husband and all the kids. If it happened here, or if it happened in Oaxaca.
Right. So they said it would have prevented the murders from it might have prevented them from happening in America, but not
right.
And maybe they happened in Mexico, or maybe America twisted her so badly that she would have been perfectly reasonable and normal in Mexico. I have no idea. It's just kind of strange logic to me.
It is. It's a little weird because it was a totally self-contained crime that didn't put this guy at risk. But that's the weird thing about it. It's like invading Iraq because of 9/11. Iraq didn't do 9/11. Nobody even says they did 9/11. It's like, yeah, well, whatever. Same diff.
That's what we do.
Not same diff.
We don't attack the guy that beat us up. We attack someone else and then hold that person up and show them
and
what
just
might
say,
happen.
Because.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Okay, so the other story we were going to talk about.
The other story I did not follow closely. So could you recap it top to bottom?
Yeah,
please?
Last week, I believe last Friday, a man named Brian Easley, I believe he was a Marine. He was definitely in the military. He
Basil
went into
Ellaby?
Yeah, I know. It sounds a lot like Basil Ellaby. It definitely sounds like that. He went into
the guy who allegedly blew up I-85, not?
Exactly. Yeah. So this guy went into a Wells Fargo bank and, basically held it up, so to speak. He didn't hold it up to get money or anything. He just took a bunch of people hostage, and the reason he did it is because he's pissed off at the VA, and that's the short of it right there. And he let most of the hostages go. He kept 2 hostages for a little while, even spent 45 minutes on the phone with somebody at, I believe, Channel 11 or something, and he told that woman that he didn't want to hurt anybody and that he's not going to hurt anybody, although he did say that he had a bomb. That's the claim. He said he had a bomb, which it turns out he didn't have a bomb, and said he wasn't going to hurt anybody. The hostages that he took said he was nice, respectful. They felt sorry for him, and ultimately, at the end of the day, what happened is it was a really weird ending to the story, and I'm going to play you some clips that show how they kind of contradict themselves in the way they report it, but the guy ended up dead. But the first headline that kind of flagged my suspicion on this was former Marine who held up bank found dead inside bank. And I'm like, wait a minute, found dead after the hostage? How do you find them dead after that?
Oh, yes, there was. It was screwy how they reported that.
Right, so I have a couple of clips. It's really squirrely. So what I'm going to play you, I'm going to play you audio that I found that was published today, and then I'm going to play you some stuff that the same guy said last week, just to kind of show you the contradictions. This one was in the newspaper today.
After more than a 3-hour standoff, members of the SWAT team, they shot Brian Easley as the hostages were being released.
Okay, I'm going to stop it right there because he says they shot them as the hostages were being released. There were 2 hostages that he kept in there after letting everybody else go. That aligns with what I was reading on Friday, that the hostages had actually gotten out before he was shot or before he was killed. So that aligns with that. Now, you're going to hear kind of a different thing later on in this clip. This is the Cobb County police chief.
We were trying everything we could to bring this to a peaceful resolution, but he would not come out, and the hostages were not being released.
But everybody else is reporting that the hostages did get out. All right, now here's the rest of it.
Hostages inside, Cobb County SWAT team members surrounded the bank.
We saw an opportunity to get them out. Tactical team member fired a shot, and we were able to enter at that point and extract the 2 female hostages.
That shot was fatal, killing Easley inside the bank. Despite the man's claims that he had explosives, there were none found in his backpack.
Now, did you notice what he said at the beginning of that, how he described it happening?
I did not follow that quite.
Listen to how he describes it going down.
With those hostages inside, Cobb County SWAT team members surrounded the bank.
We saw an opportunity to get them out. Tactical team member fired a shot, and we were able to enter at that point and extract the 2 female hostages.
So
he was shot, and then we were able to enter.
But that's the opposite of what they said earlier. Earlier, they said the hostages came out and then he was shot, right? Is that what you're saying?
Yes. Well, no, what I'm
What's
saying
your
is, my point is he was shot by a sniper from a distance. And I'll play you another clip that'll absolutely corroborate that here in a second. But they didn't go in. He says in another clip, and I have the audio of it, a reporter asked him, they said, so what happened? Did he confront you or did you confront them? And this same guy, this is on Friday before he had his story clear, he kind of trips over himself and he says, nobody confronted anybody. I can't call it a confrontation because.
Oh yes, I remember this one. This was
because the guy, he never saw it coming or never knew what was happening. So they shot him from a distance. A sniper did. And what's in the news today is that the person who shot him back in April also killed someone who was holding like a gas station up hostage. He killed an 18-year-old and both black guys. Cop's a white dude.
The cop is a white. The killer is a white cop sniper.
Right. Now he's a sniper. Now here's what
department does he work for?
He's in the SWAT team. Here's the end of the clip. Here's the end of the clip, which gives you an agenda item for what they're going to use this for, Mike.
Easley was shot as emotions run high across the country over black men being killed in officer-involved shootings. Cobb County has also been dealing with its own allegations of racial profiling for years. Chief, in Cobb County, in the community, there is a perception that in this situation, if the suspect in the bank had not been a minority, this would have ended differently.
In the incident that transpired this past Friday, that's ridiculous.
Okay.
What
now
conspired Friday?
He said with the incidents that conspired Friday, that's ridiculous. He's saying they didn't kill him because he was black, is what he's saying. Mm-hmm. But the news today, they reported today that Dennis Pont shot. This is the sniper, the SWAT team sniper. Well, I'm assuming he's a sniper. Dennis Pont shot 33-year-old Brian Easley after the man allegedly took two people hostage while falsely claiming to have a gun. The report says that 15 months earlier, Pont shot and killed 18-year-old Demetrius Dorsey as he held two gas station workers at gunpoint. So that's the story. As this guy, the second time he's done this. Now I want to play you the clip from Friday. This is about a minute and a half to 2 minutes, and we'll go through some of the strangeness of the clip after.
Can I ask you something?
Yes, you may.
Okay. So from what I'm getting here, the guy, the hostage taker, actually did not have a bomb or a gun and was apparently kind of seemed mentally disturbed. Am I wrong about that?
Yes,
he was depressed.
Definitely. Yes. His brother said that that's his brother who was at the scene of the crime. That's what the story says. At the scene of the crime, said it didn't have to end this way. Said his brother was upset because he was losing his benefits that he needed to help him with his post-traumatic stress disorder.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
Well, they want to unarm the vets.
Yeah.
They're going to promote that vets are incompetent because they're really the ones who know how to use guns.
Right.
And are maybe a little less easily fooled.
Right. I totally agree. All right. Here's the clip from Friday of that same police chief.
Where you felt like you needed to confront him with the material out behind the bank and the officers. What led to that? Well, actually, the way you characterize that as confront him is not quite accurate. We brought this to a closure and...
A closure?
It's the guy who's trying to get his story straight before his mom realizes he's high.
Yeah, all right.
I was out with my friends, and
right.
It's
right.
my friend's pop.
He does clarify here in a moment.
Because of that, I'm not at liberty to release. So when you say he confronts us and vice versa, that's not quite the way it was. But again, that's all part of the GBI investigation, and we're going to allow them to do what they do best.
Just to be clear, did he confront you all then?
When you say confront as a confrontation between me and you right now, that's a confrontation as we define it. That did not happen.
Mm-hmm.
Talking about all those guys back there in the SWAT team uniforms who are obviously that may be part of it. Yes, sir.
Now, the guy said, now, talking about those SWAT team guys, are they a part of it? And he says, yes, the SWAT team is a part of it. So that's before they clarify. That's before they decided who they were going to say did it. Right. Now he goes on to further clarify.
what I'm saying in defining this is it came to an end or resolve with their assistance. I don't define it as a confrontation because I don't think that suspect had an idea what was going on or about to occur. Did they penetrate
the suspect didn't have any idea what was going on or what was about to occur.
You're talking about defining an operation, a technical operation, where other people out there who may have the same thoughts in mind might take advantage of that, so I'm not at liberty to discuss our technical operation.
And to be clear, it was the Cobb Police Department's SWAT team that was...
That is something you'll have to get clarified by GBI. It is their investigation, sir.
Well, when the tactical team went in, did they know that there were 2 employees still inside?
The tactical team did not make entry.
The tactical team did not make entry.
Hold on. Who is this guy talking?
This is the police chief of Cobb County, the same guy
And he
that was
doesn't
talking.
know who the SWAT team was?
Right.
Well, we got to go to the GBI to see what story they want to tell. Is that...
Exactly. Yeah. And you did hear what he just said, right? He just said, because I'm gonna point something out in a minute that's important here related to this after this clip finishes. He said the tactical team did not make entry. He said the guy who got killed didn't know what was going on, didn't know what was about to happen. So he was killed, my opinion, by a sniper. Here's the rest of the clip.
Did the suspect have a vehicle on the premises, and if so, has that been checked out?
Initially, I think there was at least one vehicle that was suspect that we were defining as taking a look at. Whether or not that came...
Oh, well, that's the end of it, actually. Now, the guy who got killed, the Marine, he was on the phone with a news reporter for 45 minutes, and he told her that he was worried about the snipers outside, right? Yeah. A robot was sent. The only thing that entered the building was a robot. They sent a robot in, and they reported that the robot, I think I have the quote somewhere.
Can I say stuff?
Yes, go ahead.
Sounds like Demetrius Dorsey, who was holding 2 people at gunpoint, totally fine to take him out by a sniper, I think. This guy, it's a screwy story, so I don't know what to think about that. And I have opinions about criminal justice that I'm happy to share with you. Big opinions.
Yes. I would love to. I want to hear them, but I just found the stuff I want to tell you about what happened.
All righty.
All right, he called Channel 2, and he talked to a woman there for 45 minutes, said he wasn't going to hurt anybody. He was homeless, broke, separated from his wife, blamed it all on the VA. The SWAT team sends a robot in. They sent a robot into the bank, and it says that the robot spotted down the bomb. It was a bomb robot, spotted down the bomb, and disposed of the suspect's backpack. Now, the earlier clip, the guy said that after they killed him, they went in and they found out that, there was no bomb there.
He had no bomb, right. And he had no gun, right?
Exactly. So they didn't mention the robot at all. And then he says the standoff came to an end after a robot breached the front door at the bank about 1 p.m. So after a robot breached the front door, that's 2 people.
But I don't understand what the hostages were doing with him if he had nothing to menace them with.
I don't know. It says 2 people were freed shortly after a military-type vehicle smashed its way through the wall, raining bricks onto its hood.
Oh, my gosh.
However, it's not clear if they escaped through the wall opening. They don't even mention the robot in today's version of the story, so they've kind of dropped that part of the story. But they say military vehicle. I think the military vehicle is probably the robot. I think those are probably one and the same. I think maybe smashed through the wall and went in and got a backpack, which if they got the backpack, if the robot got the backpack, that means the guy did not have the backpack with him. So I'm trying to figure out, because did he just hand the backpack over to, you must be the robot here for my backpack. Here's my backpack, robot. Like,
Can
it
I have
doesn't
it back
make
when you're finished?
any freaking sense. Yeah, right? So that happens.
Random backpack search.
Right. I think that they smashed the thing down. That gave them an opening where they could shoot. They could see. They probably could not see him because the guy was in the military, so he was probably maybe staying hidden so the snipers couldn't get him. The robot probably cleared away for one of those snipers to take him out, and they did.
Oh, knock down the wall so
Right,
that the
yeah.
guy could shoot. Oh, get a clear shot. Very
That's what I did.
courageous. Very courageous way of handling that with the unarmed man.
Yeah, this story is crazy to me.
So here's what I have thought about over the years. Some simple things that would solve a lot of the injustices that have made me crazy. I think law enforcement who works for us, I respect them. A lot of my family's in them. I get it. Military too. I think we should develop a culture backed up by policy that the worst thing that could ever happen is if you kill an American or a person, a citizen. I mean, like, you know, a person.
Well, what about hacking into a computer, though? I thought that was
Nice. So, but I feel like if you're law enforcement and you're in a situation where you have to decide whether to kill a person or not, you have to seriously think, like, this is super bad. Like, I need to, you're not supposed to shoot first and ask questions later, which is a policy. Like, I feel like when we get to zero tolerance means a lot of innocent people die. I'm not saying this guy's innocent. I have no idea about this guy. It could be, you know, a patsy. I don't know. But
yeah.
I'm just saying, I've got a few little items. So I feel like the law enforcement guy should have to, maybe I'm missing something here, but I don't see why not, that he should be held to the same. Now, this guy was following orders, so that's something different. And that the person giving the orders should have to stand for this.
He's clearly the best shot because this is his second one. They're saying
they like to keep him sharp. But the point, I'm just saying that these guys should have to justify the homicide just like you or I would have to justify a homicide, like as a defense. They should just not be held to a different standard. There shouldn't be different rules for them. They should think just like we do, and they will be held to a higher standard because they're trained, they're armed, there are other ways to deal with it. So I just think people should be absolutely recoil in horror when someone is killed by law enforcement, because even though this guy might have been a bad guy, he might not have been a bad guy. So Ryan Johnson and David Powell in Henry County on the same street within 1 month last year, a couple of years ago, were both killed by law enforcement. David Powell, it was just a wrong number. He just got mowed down on his own property, checking it out because he heard a noise. Yeah. Ryan Johnson pulled a gun on his dad. Someone, some panicked sibling called the cops. They got everybody out except for Ryan Johnson, and 6 hours later, they blew him to smithereens, whatever. So I'm just saying, you don't know. The whole point is, in a situation like that, sounds like Demetrius Dorsey, they could see it. They could take a picture of him holding, some people at gunpoint. It's a pretty quick story. That's fine. Okay. But if you don't know for sure, if you don't know the story, you don't want to kill people. And if the person is killed in commission of a crime, I think that person should have to stand trial posthumously. So Osama bin Laden should have to stand trial. The guy in Dallas who supposedly killed the cops and was blown up by a robot like exactly a year ago should have to stand trial. This guy who was killed in the hostage situation.
I forgot to tell you, that was a year anniversary of that shooting in Dallas.
In Dallas?
Yeah, when that happened.
Where the robot went in and blew the guy up.
Exactly.
Which, by the way, there was quite an awesome citizen video. Let me see if I can find that, the Dallas shooting citizen video, where the cops are guarding a place and this guy comes up and says, I've been to the locations that are described in the news about where this Dallas event happened, where the guy was holed up in a parking garage or whatever, where the robot blew him up, and none of what's in the news matches what's going on here. What are you guarding? Why? What's the true story? And they stonewalled him. They had like a fake bus full of tourists come up and harass the guy, get in his way, put cameras in his face. Because there was something super screwy about that story, but you'll never get the story because it's not on trial. There was never a trial. So I think there should be absolutely a live streaming trial for everything, unless there's a good reason not to. You should have to prove that you can't stream it or whatever. Get it all out there. Make sure everybody sees everything. There's no reason not to. And then I would say, in addition, so there should always be 2 trials when somebody dies. There should be whatever kind of justifiable homicide proceeding against whoever pulls the trigger, gives the order, or both, and then a trial to make sure that the person who was killed on the scene was guilty.
Yeah.
And if not, if you couldn't, like in Dallas, in the beginning, they said there were 3 guys. Now, it would, even if it's not down the rabbit hole, even if you're just saying they killed the one guy and they called it a day because they knew they weren't going to catch the other guys and they don't want it to be an open crime, so they just say that the case is closed when it isn't. So I think there should always be a trial. And I actually think, so people say, oh, it'll overburden the criminal justice system to like have unnecessary trials. I would go further and say there should never be allowed any plea bargains, because plea bargains are used to give the prosecutor and the other court officials all sorts of power on how they want to prosecute. That is probably what results in this like racial disparity, and like it's like blacks and whites committing, say, the same amount of crime. I'm not saying like percentage of the population crime. I'm just saying like 100 crimes, black and white, 100 arrests, black and white, and 90 black guys go to jail and 9 white guys go to jail. And I think that's why like these mandatory sentencing and stuff, they really play with how they do the charges and all that. They give you plea bargains. They stack stuff up. Tommy Chung went to jail for a crime his son was entrapped into. No one accused Tommy Chung of any crime, yet he was allowed to accept a plea bargain on behalf of his son. That should not be allowed. Think of the abuse of power. Yeah. In his court records, one of the arguments was he has mocked law enforcement in film. So, and I have one more thing, which is to counteract any pressure that might put on the system. And I would say with a $6 or $7 trillion budget for all the governments of this country and the only legitimate function being crime stopping and justice, I would say that you could spend, it's not going to cost $7 trillion to do it my way, but it probably will cost less overall if you implement my other rule, which would be absolutely no jail time ever for anything, any violations that are not a crime against person or property. So if you are with a prostitute or take drugs or sell drugs, I do not think you should go to jail for those because they are arm's length transactions. Now, if you shoot somebody in commission of a drug transaction, yes. But if you eliminated all the people going to jail for something that is not a crime, a mala in se crime, like an inherently bad crime, like a crime against person or property. Don't touch me or my stuff.
Mala in se mean?
Mala in se means inherently bad. It's bad, mal, bad in itself, and then mala prohibita is bad because it's prohibited.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
So if it's mala prohibita, you should not go to jail, and that would devastate the prison system. Anyway, like the criminal justice system would shrink tremendously if you did that. And that would give you room to, like, I almost feel like the right to trial by jury should be unwaivable, should be inalienable.
Yeah.
And that,
Go ahead.
And I would just say that if you take those things together, you eliminate all the power that these guys have to take advantage, to manipulate, to cover their own asses, to act like a crime is solved when it's not. Like, who knows what went on with that guy inside the bank? Who really knows? You'll never know now. There'll never be a trial. And They know that if they get the benefit of the doubt for taking somebody out in what appears to be the commission of a crime, they will not have to defend themselves as long as they're certain to kill him.
Absolutely. I mean,
and that's a perverse incentive, and I think that we should care about that.
Yeah, I think you're right, because based on this story, I mean, we're not sure. It's so unclear. The reporting.
No idea. Right.
But if they determined that he had no, if the robot or whatever, if the robot got the backpack and determined that he had no bomb, which an earlier story made it sound like they determined that before they shot him, and it made it sound like the hostages escaped before they shot him, then that means that they killed an unarmed person who was no longer a threat to anybody.
Right. And you can't do it. What you need to do is give the guy a trial and let his peers decide what his punishment is. You don't get to just execute him like that because he caused you trouble.
Yeah, speaking to what you're saying, I can't find the exact article right this moment, but Governor Deal or Kasim Reed, I think it was Deal, they made some public statement recently about all the new prison jobs that are going to be coming to Georgia.
Are you kidding me? How did I miss that? I've been flagging this for 2 years.
Recently. I'll send it to you when I find the article. But I noticed it because I thought of you. I was like, that's what Monica was talking about. That's all I got for today. Whoa, wait, one more thing. I forgot.
Yes.
The Donald Trump Jr. story, the big outrage of the day. You know what's not really being talked about at all today? I mean, hardly mentioned, when I've watched the news anyway, is the story about the Marine chopper that went down last night.
Didn't even hear about it.
You didn't hear about it?
I'm a little out of the loop today. I had a bad day.
A Marine Corps aircraft crashed in Mississippi, killing 16, including special operations troops. 16.
Whoa!
Not even talked about hardly at all today.
Oh, haystacking? Assassination? You know my haystacking?
No, haystacking.
Glossary term, where you, like Ron Brown or whatever, you bring a plane down to assassinate one person so that you don't know who's the target, or you like set up a serial killer to murder a bunch of people, and then you throw in the target, and if it's like consistent with the pattern, they're just like, well, obviously these are random crimes.
Yeah, they did that in 24.
Are they trying to kill somebody? Oh, did they really?
Yeah, the airplane, when they did that, like season 1 or 2 of 24.
Yeah. So, is there any? What's the story?
That's all I know about the story, because I've been mesmerized by this meeting.
The Trump emails.
Right. But yeah, I noticed this last night, like right as it broke. I was up late and I was like, oh, wow. And I was kind of expecting it to be all over the news. And then I woke up to Donald Trump Jr. And I didn't wake up to Donald Trump Jr. That sounded really strange. I woke up to the news of Donald Trump Jr.
Freaky hairline.
Yeah.
Wake up in the morning, if he's not coming it back, it's like, and that's why I think the Donald wears his hair so funny, because he probably has that freaky hairline that starts like halfway through his forehead.
I'm sure he does.
Was that your Donald Trump impression?
No, I'm sure he does. Of course,
that's your Alec Baldwin impression. Doing Donald Trump.
That's almost what all impressions are. Almost all impersonations are impersonations of other people doing impersonations.
Like my son does an impression of me doing an impression of Will Ferrell doing an impression of Harry Carey. So my son has never heard of Harry Carey.
Yeah.
Neither have I. I just watched the Will Ferrell.
Yeah. Well, Harry Carey's grandson is a Braves announcer. His son was also a Braves announcer. Skip and Chip. Skip died a few years ago, but Skip Carey was like the best. He was the best announcer ever. I mean, it was awesome.
Ernie Johnson is the best announcer.
Well, now Skip Carey he was clearly drunk while he was announcing, and he would just kind of start insulting people sometimes, and it was hilarious. He was so funny. He made the games, even if the Braves were terrible, they were funny to listen to because of him.
Well,
yeah.
I can't relate to the sports stuff too much.
Well, you know.
Sorry.
It's all right.
I used to like Howard Cosell and Muhammad Ali.
Right.
Marv Albert taken out by sex scandal.
Yeah, Marv Albert.
Remember Marv Albert?
I do. I remember that. He was the guy. And was it a sex scandal?
Yeah, he got bitten on the back by his dominatrix.
Wait a minute. That's what gave him away? Was he at a pool or something and somebody said,
No, I think it was like evidence pictures, and he had his like toupee off and bite marks on his back.
Yeah, I'll have to go and refresh myself on that story.
No, I don't think you need to. It's not. It's best to put that stuff out of your mind.
Well, that's all I got for today.
Okay, that was so interesting. I can't believe I dove into the deepest rabbit holes of all time right out of the chute. Oh well.
It happens.
Hey man, I'm just like Thomas. I doubt. There's a Saint Thomas. He became the saint, even though he needed to put his hand in Jesus' side.
Yeah,
you know what I
there's
mean? It's
nothing
not
wrong.
an
Yeah.
unforgivable sin to wonder about
No.
official narratives.
No, you got to ask questions about it.
I question basic assumptions. Let's
You
get
should
back
always-
to basics.
Always, it really pisses people off when you do it in like normal conversation, but always question assumptions.
Well, when I became an anarcho-capitalist, I really freaked people out because I figured it out. I was like, wow, there was a time, like 1,000 years or whatever, where people, this is what I've read. I mean, maybe it's wrong, but they simply would not question the existence of God. They would not question, like it just was something that didn't make sense to them. And I didn't like 100% understand how that could be until I started questioning the necessity of the coercive monopoly state.
Yeah.
Like I would say, well, but we don't need a state. We don't need the modern state. Like and people would be like, what are you talking about? Like, well, we don't need the government. They could barely conceive of the question, that my premise is that society is self-ordering. You have insurance, you have security, you have, you know what I mean? Like if you have two capitalists get together, they're going to build a road to connect the house with the store,
Right.
And then they're going to hire a guy to walk alongside them with a gun, like the Wells Fargo ads, which I always think are crazy.
Yeah.
We protect your money with this guy carrying a gun.
That's kind of odd too. Now that bank hostage situation was at a Wells Fargo.
Oh, was it really? Because they didn't have that guy riding shotgun.
That guy wasn't there. He was gone.
No, that's where is that guy when you need him? So I would try to tell people, just think about it. Think about it. And I'm cuckoo. Tinfoil hat right off the bat. When I started questioning that assumption, they just can't get their minds around it. So anyway, we shall see. All right.
I had a friend tell me one time, he said, I can't remember how it came up, but he said that he was like, I say that I believe in God, just in case, because I figure if it is true, then at least I said I believed in it. I'm like, okay, so you're saying that if the creator of the world,
is going to fall for it.
Trick him is what you're telling me.
He's what?
He has the assumption that he can trick them. As long as I do that, I'll pull one over on him.
Was it Pascal who came up with the idea? I believe it was Pascal who said, you have to believe in God because if you don't and there isn't one, all right, no big deal. But if you don't and there is one, you're in trouble. But if you do and there isn't one, you'll never know.
That's
and
the
if
theory.
You do and there is one, you get the bonus.
Right. So who's Pascal? Is that a color?
Well, Pascal was a famous Greek thinker and mathematician.
Okay.
Pascal's theorem.
I don't know that one. Yeah.
I don't, but I could be wrong because I don't know if I've got allergies or what, but I have not been as sharp.
I gotta tell you, every time I have allergies, I forget my ancient philosopher knowledge.
Dude, it's totally true.
Yeah. I hear you. I know what you mean.
Interferes with your recall. Or it could just be the toxic state of the environment, another way to dumb us down.
I have fake news infection. I got an infection from all the fake news.
In my brain. It is fake news, though. It is fake news.
Yeah.
This stuff about Trump annexing Crimea is fake news. It's not true.
Right. Yeah.
And on that note, I refer you to episode 53 for stuff on that. And this concludes episode 54 of the Propaganda Report. This is Monica Perez. Thank you for listening. Goodbye, Binkley.
See you later.